It's 7, man. Oh, you already on it.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to today's episode of Our Voices. Today is Sunday, December 3rd of 2023, and we thank you for joining us today. I am going to be your host for this evening, Derek Scott, along with our co-hosts. I'll go in order of what my screen says. This is Mr. Mr. Bill Snow, author and activist extraordinaire, Miss Jill Lewis Staggs, Okaloosa State Committee woman from the Florida Democratic Party and Okaloosa Democratic Party and treasurer of the Democratic Black Caucus of Florida. And special guest with us tonight, Mr. Genesis Robinson of the group Equal Ground. How is everybody today?
Wonderful.
Good. Glad to be here.
Good. Let me just make sure I got us here on my thing so we can monitor, and we welcome everybody who's viewing us on WBQP. We want to thank Mr. Vernon Watson and WBQP for airing tonight's episode, as well as welcome those of you all who are in our virtual world via Facebook or YouTube. We welcome and say thank you for you guys for joining us today. All right, let's get into it. We have a couple of things. I just want to go around the table before we start. I'll start with Mr. Bill, and I'm going to end with Genesis so he can share what his things today. Do you have anything special that you would like to share with our audience today, or things that we should know of importance for today?
Yeah, I would like to let our viewing audience know that one of our most loyal followers, viewers, all the way from St. Louis, Missouri, Miss Lois Pruitt, lost her mother on yesterday. So I would like for the entire audience, man, she's been with the show since I've been with the show, and I've been with the show 7.5, 8 years. She was here when I got here, but she is so faithful, been a loyal financial supporter, the whole nine, but she lost her mother on yesterday. So I would like the viewing audience to keep Lois Pruitt up there in St. Louis, Missouri, from Jerry's hometown, Helena, Arkansas, lifted up in their prayers. That's all I had.
Thank you. Miss Blessed Pruitt, we are with you in thoughts. Our thoughts and prayers are with you and your family during this time. It's been a lot of loss here recently, so we certainly can empathize and feel for your pain. And please check in with us. Let us know if there's anything that we can do, as you have been a loyal supporter of our show for many, many years. We want to be there for you. So please let us know what it is that you need, and we'll be happy to step in and see if we can fill the gap as needed. So thank you, Bill, for bringing that to our attention today as well. Jill, how are you?
I am doing okay. I have a question, but I don't think now is the right time for my question, so I won't get into my question yet. I think what I would, and Bill, I really thought you were going to go to the sport. I understand why you went where you went, but there's also the sports side. I really thought you were going to go to the whole FSU thing. I thought,
I mean,
so I can't believe that it took a woman to bring out that.
Well, I'm a Miami Dolphins pro football guy. I'm not big on college football. I mean,
but it's big
got the short end of the stick.
I'm just saying, it's big news.
I think they got the short end of the stick, but hey, man, when you got a little committee that decides and doesn't suit up or do anything, that's just the way the cookie crumbles, as Ace Ventura would say.
I don't know why Derek Scott is looking like that, but we're just saying there were 16 4 slots. I'm not even an FSU fan, but for Rick Gable and for my son and his wife, who are absolutely Noles fans, I know they are at home crying right now.
They're devastated.
And they were 13-0, and they did not make it to the playoffs, which is unheard of. It is record shattering and earth breaking. And I just thought I would bring that
Yeah, they're devastated. They should be.
And they should be. So I'm just sharing that. And Genesis, I guess we can give it to you, and you can share some.
Well, I just want to say, I do want to say I apologize. I'm sorry to all those of you all who are Florida State University Seminoles fans, and I'm going to try to muster up the sincere empathy that I can muster up to say, I feel your pain. It is an unfortunate situation, and
the Gators aren't even in the picture, so you can just say that. Go ahead, Genesis.
Yeah, that's why I said I'm going to muster up because I really
you don't even know what it feels like.
I really don't care, but so
you know what it feels like. It's been
on national television. I was trying to be like, but
yeah.
Oh well, better luck next year. Okay.
You don't even know. You don't know.
As activists, we have a genuine concern for any injustice. So
injustice.
Yeah,
and it's definitely an injustice.
There you go. There you go. Well, it's funny. I decided to stay quiet during that whole section because I am a Gator fan. However, as Brother Snow said, any injustice is a threat to justice everywhere. And so I will say that was a little alarming that they were left out. But I understand. I'm not saying that I agree, but I understand. Obviously, FSU is weakened. Their starting quarterback is out. And, the committee just don't feel like they're good TV. And this is all about, making money. And they need as much eyes on television as possible. And the reality of it is a team without their starting quarterback just probably doesn't draw that same attention. I will say, however, that, and it's funny how we're talking about sports, right? But I will say it's funny that I don't think they give them enough credit for the defense on that team, right? And so when you look at like the Baltimore Ravens back in the early 2000s, when they won that Super Bowl with Ray Lewis, they had a quarterback whose name 100 people would not know out of 100, right? But they went on and won that Super Bowl and are considered one of the greatest defenses of all time. And so I think it's unfortunate, we're just in such a offensive-minded, quarterback-driven era where if you don't have a big-time quarterback or big-time offensive weapons, you sort of get dinged for that. So it's unfortunate for FSU, but as a Gator fan, I'm not going to lose no sleep whatsoever.
Yeah.
Oh, that was well said. Well said. But the true injustice is those 45, 50 guys, man, that has done everything that they were told to do and to get their undefeated quarterback list the last dang game or two. It's a travesty.
It is.
Because of big bucks, and ultimately that's basically what it boils down to.
The money. That's right.
No, yeah,
I will say, even though Florida State was cheated, as many would believe, they have a real opportunity to redeem themselves. They did get an opportunity to be matched up with the Georgia Bulldogs, who also, are out. They're on the outside looking in, and they are the national champions for 2 years in a row. And so Florida State really feels like, hey, we deserve it and we can prove our point. I say you go out there and take care of business against Georgia, and then it's really going to open up a can of worms as to their viability to, be in that Big Four. Because if they win that game against Georgia, that's going to say a lot. So we'll see, as things progress. I think they'll have a chance to make their case. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, now I feel bad, so I'll say I'm sorry for your lost team, those who played and who look forward to being in a playoff game. But that's all I'm gonna say. Yay! So we'll move on to Mr. Genesis. What do you have? I understand there are several events that you have for Equal Ground. Can you tell us a little bit about, for those who don't know about the organization Equal Ground, what it is, and then what it is you guys do, what's coming up, and then how everybody can get involved?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you for that opportunity. But and in all seriousness, I want to back up one bit here. The last time I was on this show, Miss McIntosh was with us, and so I just again want to reiterate my condolences to the McIntosh family. She was a jewel of a person, someone who supported our organization, Equal Ground, since she heard about it. And, we just had a call about a month ago, and, I was excited to be able to honor her very, very, very briefly, but, give her the respect and reverence that she deserves, because she was certainly a soldier out here fighting for the progression of people who look like us. And it's just a beautiful thing for her to have a life well lived in that way. And so just want to again offer my condolences to Mr. McIntosh and the entire family and all of you, right? Because we're all family. You all have worked alongside her for many years, right? And so I don't want to discount the impact her loss has on you all as well, you know. But Equal Ground is a Black-led voting rights organization working throughout the entire state of Florida to really increase civic engagement in Black communities. You know, too often we have elections and then we see that our community has not participated in a way that we would desire, right? And so a few years back, we said, well, what can we do to start getting people more engaged? And not just during election time, right? But what can we do to get people engaged beyond election time? And so we've been really just working in that space of civic engagement, just trying to get folks involved all around the gambit. One of the areas that we focus on primarily is in the legislature. Since I came on board as political director for the organization, we really started thinking about what can we do to sort of be on offense as much as we're on defense, right? A lot of times we're responding to what we're seeing coming out of Tallahassee, responding to what we're seeing coming out of our, you know, city halls and places like that. But we wanted to say, hey, we want to strategize and offer some positive things that we can fight for versus always fighting against. And so through our work in the legislature, we created a training program a few years back called Take the Lead. And with the Take the Lead program, we essentially, work to inspire individuals who have a desire to lead in their communities. We just basically say, hey, you take the lead. This is what you need to take the lead. This is how you need to be informed about a particular process. And so now the legislative session will be on the horizon starting in January. We're doing a training to really teach Black folks throughout this whole state, or really any folks, but it's mostly geared and focused towards Black people. This is what it is to understand and know the legislative process, how you can engage in that process. And so we're really excited. This year, we've partnered with over 20 different organizations, some of them in the Panhandle, some of them represented here on this call right now. And so we're super excited. On Tuesday, we will be having this conversation. There'll be an advanced and a beginner's track for folks to sign up. And in those tracks, you'll hear from seasoned politicos and legislative staffers. And then we'll end the night with a conversation with two of our legislative champions, Senator Tracy Davis out of Jacksonville, as well as Representative LaVon Bracey Davis. We'll end the night with a panel discussion so folks can hear directly from legislators about what their plans are for this year. So again, that's on December 5th. 2023. It is 6:30 p.m. Eastern time, which I believe is 5:30 p.m. Central time. Mm-hmm. And so we invite you to join us for that. To get more information, you can go to our website, equal-ground.com, or you can text Equal Ground, all one word, to 52886, and the registration is still open until tomorrow. So, if that's something that you're interested in, you want to know more about the legislative process, please consider joining us. It's an excellent opportunity for you to get the 411 on what happens in Tallahassee.
Thank you for that. So what we have done is I put, for those of us who are joining us virtually, I put the website for Equal Ground in our chat. So if anybody who's watching, they can go to that, and that's equal-ground.com. And Genesis provided the information on how to register. We've also put a copy of the registration for the Zoom link in the chat as well for those of you all who are joining us virtually. If not, you will have. Can you give the text number one more time so they can join?
Sure thing. So it's Equal Ground, all one word, to 52886. Again, Equal Ground, all one word, to 52886. When you do that, you should get back a link. And in that link, there should be information about our legislative Take the Lead that's happening Tuesday, December 5th. So we'd love for you all to join us.
Thank you for that. And for those who are watching, Genesis alluded to the organizations here in the Panhandle that are working with Equal Ground. Of course, Movement for Change is always one they're supporting. They're going to be working with Equal Ground on this Take the Lead leadership series. The the Pensacola chapter, or I guess let me say it the way they have it written, the National Coalition for 100 Black Women Pensacola chapter is also partnering with Equal Ground on this initiative, as well as the Northwest Florida Panhandle Coalition for Civic Engagement. So if you are questioning, if you have any questions and you aren't able to text or you still need information, please feel free to reach out to one of those organizations. You can find them on Facebook, as well as and just reach out. Jill can give you information. I can give you information. Just reach out and we'll be happy to provide that for you. So again, we look forward to that. And that's on Tuesday for those who are in the Panhandle. That is Tuesday, this coming Tuesday at 5:30 p.m. our time, 5:30 p.m. our time. So we hope that you can join us. We have quite a few folks that have already signed up. We're looking, of course, it's open. So you don't have to rush, try to get a seat. You can just join us virtually. And that's the benefit of this opportunity. So we appreciate that.
Absolutely.
So that takes care of Tuesday. Tell us what you're doing Wednesday and why people should be paying attention to what's going on in that area.
Yeah, thank you. So, this week is very busy for us. As Derek just mentioned, we're doing Take the Lead on Tuesday, but on Wednesday, we're traveling to Tallahassee to stand in solidarity with State Attorney Monique Worrell. For those of you who are listening, you may be familiar with the name. She is the duly elected prosecutor who was elected to represent Orange and Osceola County in the 9th Judicial Circuit. And earlier this year, Governor Ron DeSantis removed her from office. He did so because he alleged that she was not following the law in how she ran her office, which essentially means that she was trying to find ways to have restorative justice, right? He wanted her to, lock people up and throw away the key. And she was trying to find ways to really work with the community to bring crime down and have some type of restorative justice programs where she would do deferred sentencing. She would work with our youth and give them certain opportunities. And so it was quite a shame when he took that action to remove her. Our organization mobilized. We did a rally in Orlando, Florida, in support of her. We did a digital actions where folks could, email the governor as well as the legislature and demand that they reinstate her. But when you're removed from office, you have two sort of pathways, especially as a prosecutor. One is to appeal directly to the Florida Senate and ask them to hold a hearing to, determine whether or not you should be reinstated. And the other pathway is to go before the Supreme Court. And so the Florida Supreme Court has granted Attorney Worrell and her team, I think they get about 30 minutes, I want to say 30 minutes to go before the Supreme Court and make the case on why she should be reinstated. Now, we do know that the makeup of the Supreme Court is mostly individuals that have been appointed by this governor. So I'm not trying to make a judgment as to whether or not they are incapable of being impartial, but I think that's very important to understand going into this, right? In terms of us being able to set expectations on what we're going to get from this. And so we're going to stand with her. She will have her hearing before the Supreme Court. After the hearing, we have a bus that's traveling up from the Orlando area made up of most of her constituents who we're going to have a press conference. We're going to talk about the need of having prosecutors who we can trust, who do things a little bit differently. And most importantly, the importance of protecting democracy, right? Because that's what's really at stake here. The people chose, they elected who they wanted to elect, and then the governor took issue with how that person leads and removed that person from office. So that's a very dangerous precedent to set when we're talking about democracy and engagement. And so that's why, we wanted to be there in Tallahassee for Our Vote, Our Democracy rally and press conference that we will be doing on December 6th in Tallahassee. So if you're in the area, please feel free to join us. We will be on the steps of the Florida Supreme Court, and we look forward to you being able to come up and rally for Attorney Worrell.
Thank you for that. Let me ask, because it's probably too late, but I'll ask just for anybody who may be interested in this Panhandle. I know you mentioned bus trips, so I know we in the Panhandle aren't taking a bus. There are several of us going who are just driving around. Is it too late for anybody who is interested, who wants to attend, to sign up to join and participate in the day's event for Wednesday?
No, it's not at all. Again, if you go to equalground.com, equal-ground.com, under our event section, this is listed. You can still sign up. It's not too late. The more the merrier. I mean, obviously, logistically, the bus will be, I think, coming out of Orlando area. So that, we can't pass Tallahassee to drive up to San Diego and then come back.
Right.
But, certainly for anyone that's able to make the trip themselves, we definitely welcome you, because, we know this is middle of the week, right? So a lot of folks, they got to work and that type of thing, and they have responsibilities. But it's important that for those of you who can come, that you take the time to really impress upon these folks the importance of our democracy, right? The people of Orlando knew who they were getting when they selected her as their prosecutor. She campaigned on a vision of reimagining justice and criminality and the criminal justice system. And so that's exactly why they chose her. And so for this governor to be able to just, at the stroke of a pen, have her removed from office is something that we all should be really outraged about, whether you're a Democrat or Republican, black, white, whatever the case may be, because it really, undercuts our system of governance when we can just remove our political opponents just because we want to. That's not how democracy works.
Right. And for those who are unaware, who are just hearing about this, it may sound familiar, but you may have heard a different name. This has been done. Governor DeSantis has already done this before. He did it with Andrew Warren, I believe is his name.
Andrew Warren, right. He was the prosecutor out of Hillsborough County. And earlier this year, or late last year, rather, I can't remember, he did the same thing with him. And that was all in response to, after the state of Florida passed more punitive measures around abortion care and abortion access. Attorney Warren basically made the comment that said he won't be going after women if they desire to seek abortion care. Then the governor heard that and said, okay, you're not following the law, you're out of there. And so it's quite interesting, right, that the two people that he has removed in this way have been Democratic state attorneys, right? So that's not lost on any of us that has happened. But also, just the reality, like I said before, these people were duly elected. State Attorney Warren was elected with over 60% of the vote in his race, and so was State Attorney Worrell. And so that's just something that I just can't understate that. I just can't overstate that enough. We really, really, really have to care about this, right? When you have a governor who has abused his power in this way and is just removing people. And here's the thing, right? Even if she is to get reinstated, the governor has made the calculation in his mind that, making political theater and having her removed, even if it's for six months, is worth it, right? Now he knows that the Supreme Court, he's appointed many of those members of the Supreme Court, and I think he likes his chances there. But the reality of it is, it's like, we need to send a message to him that this type of thing doesn't go unchecked, and we care. And so that's why we're trying to get as many people there to just express that sentiment on Wednesday.
Yeah, and it doesn't go unsaid. He's done this, and he's also tried to consolidate the circuits to make sure to make it even more impossible. Even if they go to say, okay, well, you got your job back, but there's only one circuit already. So he's taking her circuit and combining it with, I don't know what the number is, but the one that's South Florida, right? And so making it,
It's absolutely terrible, and I'm happy you brought that up, Derek. So judicial consolidation is something that they've been looking to do, But it's just interesting that, like, you know, he's not even trying to hide it anymore, right?
Right.
Like, he's just very clear and just out here with it, basically saying, look, you know, I want to come after our criminal justice system. And so they have asked the Supreme Court to study whether or not there should be a consolidation of our judicial circuits. I'm proud to say, however, that the committee that was tasked with doing the studying of whether or not this is necessary, they actually reported back and said, no, this is not something that we should be doing. So we're very happy about that. However, that doesn't mean that it can't happen, right? This is just a committee saying, hey, we don't think this is a good idea. Ultimately, the governor, you know, the buck stops with him. He's the chief executive of our state. And if they desire to move in that direction, that's just the way that it's going to happen. But at least there is hundreds of people who have gone on the record, if not thousands of people, who have gone on the record and said, this is a bad idea. We don't want this to happen. At least we have prosecutors who are on both sides of the aisle. It was so funny because we went to one of the hearings in Orlando, and you had these small town prosecutors, right, who were clearly Republicans, but they were blasting this plan because they were like, we don't want to be a part of the big city, and the big city don't want to be a part of us. So just leave us alone. And so it was just one of those unique instances, right, where people were willing to speak up and defy and go against the governor. Our hope would be that they would do that more frequently on other issues that matter, not just this one singular issue. But you know, I guess you got to crawl before you can walk, right?
Yeah, it was interesting. I don't know if we went to I didn't physically attend, but I did the virtual attendance that they had on Zoom. And I remember just listening to these people, and I was surprised, to your point, not only the prosecutors, but the amount of sheriffs that were zoomed in virtually to say, no, this isn't good. This is crazy. And the overall thing they kept repeating was, if it's not broke, don't fix it. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. And you could hear, like, to your point, on both sides of the aisle, their disdain for what he is trying to do. You could always tell, and there were a few people who were like, oh, this is great. You know, you could always tell, I felt like they were like planted just to be like, oh, let me score my points. So with DeSantis to say this is great, because nothing that they said made any sense to anybody else. But you know, these are the times that we live in. So it is absolutely insane, and I think we all stand with State's Attorney Monique Worrell in her fight. You know, and so I know several of us have given to her campaign, have dedicated the resources to make sure that she. You know, to show the support and make sure that the state government knows that we aren't standing for this. This is absolutely atrocious and ridiculous, and to your point, political theater and grandstand. So, you know, thank you for that. Thank you for sharing. I know Jill and I are going. Jill, were you about to say something?
I just have a question to Genesis, really for everybody else, but I think I also have this question. So, want to speak anything into the world, but let's just say that they do what we think they're going to do because DeSantis is who he is. Then what?
So I'll take a stab at this. Well, I'll take a shot at this first.
What's next, and what can we do next, and kind of like walk us through.
So I think in the immediate aftermath, there's nothing we can do, right? Like, I don't mean that sarcastically, but the reality of it is the governor has the authority to do what he did, whether we agree with it or not, right? He has the authority to remove officials from office, right?
All right.
And so I think what we have to do is we have to take that knowledge and that understanding, and we just have to apply that to the next election to understand how high the stakes are when it comes to these positions. I think oftentimes we take for granted, you know, the impact and the importance of certain positions. And so we have to file this away as just another indicator of why elections are so important, so that moving into the next election where he or someone like him appears on the ballot, we organize really hard and make sure that that person doesn't get anywhere near close to the governor's mansion, because they will wreak havoc on our democracy. And so I think in the immediate aftermath, there's nothing we can do. But obviously moving forward, we can, do better with organizing. We can do better with sharing this story, because what I'm finding out is that the more people hear about these type of injustices, the more people hear about this type of corruption and foolishness that takes place, they get upset and they want to get involved and they want to get engaged. And I know y'all are seeing that up there in the Panhandle, right? Because of the work that y'all are doing, having platforms such as this, having meetings and community conversations, people are starting to wake up. And so I think we have to continue to lift up these type of things to let folks know, say, hey, this is what happens when we don't vote, right? I always think about 2018 when Ron DeSantis defeated Andrew Gillum. And I look at that race, right? 32,000 votes, y'all. Like, just think about that, right? Like, you can almost taste it, right? 32,000 votes over this whole state, right? I think it came out to it was like if 3 more people in every precinct or something. Like, it was some weird number. I don't want to regurgitate it and get it wrong, but I mean, the margins were so tight. And just think about all of the stuff that we would have foregone, right? Now, I'm not saying that he would have been the greatest governor and he would have been able to get a whole lot done, because who knows, right? But at the very least, we can say that what he would not have done, right? He would not have removed Democratic lawmakers from office. He would not have eliminated Black congressional seats in Congress. He would not have taught our kids that there's an educational benefit to, slavery. Right. And so it's mind blowing to me when you see all the things that are able to happen because of one election. And so I think we just have to continue to teach people that, hey, elections have consequences. And this is one of many results of that bearing its fruit right here in front of us.
Brother Janice is well stated. Our co-host extraordinaire Christina Forrest on our live Facebook stream weighs in. Will say about democracy, thank you, Equal Ground. She says his map reducing the number of Black districts from 4 to 2, removing Blacks from power. This is what he does. He knows he's wrong. Thanks for speaking out. She says Florida prosecutes more children as adults than any other state in the nation. Once charged, these youth await trial in adult jails where their rights to humane treatment and education are routinely neglected. When folks speak out, they are removed from office. She says, if you're in Orlando, get on the bus to Tallahassee.
That's right. Thank you. Thank you so much for that, Christina.
Yeah, these are the times that we're living in. Go ahead, Joe.
I was going to say, if you're in Tallahassee, can you just attend?
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
In Orlando, there are so many right in freaking Tallahassee. Go during lunch, go that morning, take the time to show up.
After class, before class.
That are there already. We're busting in, we're driving in, but there are thousands of you already there that could just show up.
Yeah,
that's a really great point, Jill, and thank you for lifting that up. Because oftentimes we make the appeal about around the bus, but we need to be making an appeal to the people that are in the location already, right? Like, you have a responsibility to be a part of this as well. So that's a great point. But one other thing that I'll say, for those who can't make it, you just have a valid, legitimate reason. I'm working. I'm a caretaker. I just can't go, whatever your reason may be, we still have an opportunity for you to have your voice heard. If you go to that, if you go to our website, or if you go to text Equal Ground, all one word, to 52886, in that link that you're going to get back, there's going to be a link for you to sign a petition and add your name to the hundreds of people who have said that this is wrong. And so, there's still a way for you to be engaged around this, even if you can't physically show up in Tallahassee. And so I invite you to be able to do that at the bare minimum, to add your name in that way.
Yeah, thank you. So again, for those who are watching, if you can't join us, again, go to the website, equal-ground.com, and look for the event link or the link to sign the petition to say this is not right. I don't think that's an ask that any of us can be asked that we should not be unwilling to make. You know, at this point, we are all hands on deck. The democracy is at risk, is at stake, and you guys have heard it here several occasions, and I will continue to say it. I'm going to amend what I said to say that I used to say that we are 2 election cycles away from slavery. I am now whittling it down to 1. We are in the fight of our lives. So we've got to take every opportunity to remain engaged, stay engaged, and then tell others to be engaged. And this is a perfect way to do that. So thank you for sharing those things with us, Genesis. I'm going to put you on the spot one more time because I want you to share with us state of Florida. We have been in, as we kind of alluded to it earlier, and it's a good segue, about the redistricting case, you know, within the state of Florida. I know those of us who have been watching, who have been following it, we know that we lost a huge district as Governor DeSantis whitewashed our maps, made it so that our delusion made it possible to erode and dilute our Black voting voice. With that, and organizations like NAACP have fought, and there was a ruling that said that those maps are not legal. What say you in the latest of that case?
Oh man, you know, it is infuriating to say the least. This has been a almost year and a half battle where we have sought to correct the wrong, right? For those of you who are not familiar, I'll just give a brief background. Every 10 years, the state of Florida is required to draw new legislative boundaries. They have to do so for our state positions in the Florida legislature, as well as for the positions in our congressional delegation. The state boundaries sort of went off without a hitch. There was no legal fight over them. We got new boundaries for our legislators. But at the congressional level, the governor, even when the process was taking place, so even when the legislature was actually drawing the map, he submitted his own map. And that's very unprecedented, right? Because he's the one who's supposed to sign the maps into law once they come out of the legislature. And so he essentially submitted his own map telling them basically, hey, this is what I want y'all to do. That was a very unprecedented move on his part. And so despite him submitting his own map, where he had proposed eliminating 2 of the Black seats that we had in our congressional delegation, the legislature was like, no, we're not going to do that. You know, like, we don't agree that we should eliminate these 2 Black seats. And so they defied him. And then what he said is, okay, well, I'm not going to pass the budget because y'all didn't give me what I wanted. So all those projects that you need for your district to be able to go home and tell folks, hey, I did something good, it's on the chopping block if you don't give me what I want. So he called them back in for a session, a special session, and they drew a map that was in line with the map that he had originally submitted to them, where he eliminated 2 of the Black access seats that we had here in Florida. Now you say, well, what is a Black access seat? So prior to 1990, the state of Florida had gone over 100 years where there was no Black person who represented our state in Congress. And it was at that time in 1990 that the late Honorable Carrie Meek, the late Honorable Alcee Hastings, and Congresswoman Corrine Brown were able to win a lawsuit against the state of Florida, and the state of Florida created 3 seats that would be guaranteed to perform for a Black person. After the 2010 redraw of the maps, we ended up getting a 4th one, and that's how Val Demings was able to go in Orlando. So we had 4 seats that were protected and pretty much guaranteed to elect an African American. And so the governor wanted to undo the one going from Tallahassee over to Jacksonville, which many of our listeners probably live in that area, right? And then he wanted to undo the one that was in Central Florida that Congresswoman Val Demings was in. And so, you know, they ultimately end up siding with him and approving that map. We, along with some other partners, sued the state of Florida over this. We appealed to the Supreme Court to try to stop it for the 2022 election, but the court told us, hey, you're too close to an election. We'll deal with this after the election. We're going to go ahead and let this map stick, and then after the election, we'll deal with it. And so we dealt with it. The state actually stipulated and agreed that they diminished voting power in this map. And so as a result of that, a trial court ordered them to draw a new map. Well, the state, of course, appealed that decision and said, oh, no, we're not going to listen to this lower court. We're going to appeal it. And the First District Court of Appeals decided to hear the case. They heard this case despite both of us being the plaintiffs, Equal Ground and others, as well as the state agreeing to go right to the Supreme Court. We said, you know what, we're going to go right to the big leagues. And the First District Court of Appeals said, nope, we're going to hear it. And we should have known then that, something was up, because typically when you have two parties that agree on something, it's almost like a done deal, right? And so the First District Court of Appeals wanted to hear the case, and all of the justices heard it. It's a unique scenario. Typically, when you go to appeals court, you get a 3-judge panel. But in this case, all of the justices, I think there's 13 of them who sit on the First District Court of Appeals, wanted to hear this case, and they ruled to strike down the lower court's ruling. So in essence, what that means is that the map that was passed by DeSantis in the legislature will stand. Our legal team is exploring all avenues as to, what could be next for us. Not ready to make an announcement on what that looks like. But as of right now, that map is constitutionally able to stay in place. And it effectively eliminated 2 of the 4 seats that were guaranteed to elect a Black person here in the state of Florida. And so for the first time in a very long time, we now only have 2 seats in the state, and they're both in South Florida, that are guaranteed to elect a Black person. Mm. So all the Black folks who live in other parts of the state, all the Black folks who live, like we know, in Central Florida, up in the Panhandle, in Jacksonville area, those voters have now been denied the opportunity to have a representative that looks like them and cares about the issues that they care about.
Diane Joan Dillard says that DeSantis is a wannabe Confederate dictator.
Yeah. It's just absolutely ridiculous when you think about, the implications of that, right? Like I said, we're not that far removed from the victory that we had won in 1990. I'm only 34 years old. I was born in 1989, right? And so in my lifetime, a victory is already being rolled back, right? So I think when you put it in that context, right, we think that when we win victories, that it's final. But Ms. Coretta Scott King used to say, you win justice every generation. It's not something that's permanently won. You have to fight for it every single generation. And so here we are in the fight for our generation, the fight to protect our representation, because, the state of Florida, we got the 3 seats back in the 1990s, and here we are already where they're trying to roll them back and take them away. And so, it's really a shame, because not only did we see that happen on the diminishment side for Black voters, but also he changed the partisan landscape of the United States House of Representatives, right? Florida, prior to this new map, had a delegation of 27 seats. It was 14-13 in favor of Republicans. So it was very close, right, in terms of parity. When he passed this new map, the new makeup of our congressional delegation is 20-8, right? So not only did he eliminate 2 Black access seats, but he completely changed the game as it relates to the numbers in the House. And that's why the margins are so close there. And the Republicans have an advantage because of what he was able to do in Florida by delivering those additional seats to Republicans in Congress. And so that's why they have a majority presently in the House of Representatives, is because of what he was able to do here in Florida. And so, we're hopeful that if this case does get appealed to the Supreme Court, they will intervene. They will somehow see this as a injustice, as we know that it is. But we have to wait and see if that's even an option that the legal team takes this case to begin with.
Yeah, I'm curious, and we, on behalf of those of us in Florida, I want to say thank you for fighting the good fight for those of us who are living in the state of Florida, because we would be nowhere without your perseverance and your dedication to democracy. Thank you for that. I guess I'm curious to know, does you, if you can answer, as Equal Ground, find concern with the recent case? We were talking about it last week on our show, where the Eighth Circuit Court of Appeals, U.S., voted to not allow third-party organizations to hear cases that impact us, as voting rights cases. Does that hinder? Could that potentially hinder what you guys are doing? And how do you see the shape of Florida as if that takes on a case where they move up to the U.S. Supreme Court?
Right. So first of all, let me just say, I appreciate you saying thank you for the work that we do, but I seriously, I mean this, thank you, right? Like, we're all as strong as we allow ourselves to be collectively, right? Like, there's no one group, because when we do things and when we have call to actions, they would mean nothing if you didn't answer the call to action, right? I mean, we're obviously a convener of people in this state, and we try to, bring Black folks together through civic engagement, but it's everybody who's doing the work in these individual pockets throughout the state that's allowing us to sort of, move forward. And so I don't, take that lightly, right? So obviously I appreciate that, but I think we all need to, recognize the important role that we're all individually playing, right? And trying to move the needle here and raising awareness. Now, to your point about the decision about the Voting Rights Act. So there was a recent ruling where a lower court said essentially that third-party groups such as Equal Ground, such as NAACP, League of Women Voters, others, right, would not be able to bring a suit, under the Voting Rights Act. And so they're basically saying that it's only for the Attorney General, I believe it is, to say, hey, the law's being violated and I'm going to challenge under this. That's only an avenue for that particular office. So if that holds, that will be damaging for sure, because, oftentimes the people that you may have problems with are the ones in office, right? And so if that's the case, you can never count on them to do the right thing, right? Let's just say it was Florida, right? Let's just say, this was a Florida thing. We couldn't count on, anybody in the DeSantis administration to file a suit in favor of voting rights, right? Like, we can kiss that goodbye. Or, I'll take it even on the national level. When Trump was in office, right? You couldn't count on Jeff Sessions or Bill Barr to basically say, hey, we are violating the Voting Rights Act and we're going to sue ourselves. So I think they need to leave it in the hands of outside parties to be able to bring those type of challenges, because if they move it in-house, it's going to really, really, really slow down our ability to seek justice. And so hopefully the Supreme Court will recognize that. It's hard to really predict the Supreme Court, so I don't even want to speculate, right? Sometimes we've thought that they're going to be in one area and they mess around and show up in another area. So I want to keep an open mind when it comes to that. But yeah, that's going to be a big deal if that holds and they take away that ability from third-party voter registration organizations and nonprofits.
Yeah, thank you for that. Thank you for validating. We talk about, I asked you these questions knowing pretty much being able to guess what you're going to say. And so thank you for that. But it's always good to hear for those people who view the show, they hear Jill, they hear Bill, they hear myself, they hear Jerry, they hear Christina talking about it, the same, these same things. And we try to give it a level of impassioned plea to get involved and get engaged because it's something that affects us all. And clearly, if we don't do something now, we're going to be in a very bad position. So it's nice to have another person to come in to say that, reiterate those things. So we thank you for that. We appreciate that. I want to be respectful for your time. Is there anything else that you have that you want to share, or anything that you want everybody to know?
Not really. I mean, just want to thank you all again for the platform and the opportunity. I actually have about 10 more minutes. I know I had told you earlier that I had about 35 to 40 minutes, but actually was able to clear some things so I can have the whole hour up until 9. And okay. I might have a few minutes after that, I'm not being pulled away. And the conversation is good. I mean, I really enjoy this. And if I'm available, I'm here, so. But again, thank you all for the platform and the opportunity. This is just important work. We got to continue to lift up the need for people to be involved and see what's happening. Oftentimes, people talk about, well, if I lived in the 50s or I lived in the 60s, I would do this and I would do that. And it's like, you got to call them out on that. You wouldn't have did a dang on thing because you live in here in 2023 and you ain't doing nothing, and so that's just the reality of it. It obviously we can look back at history and see how bad those things were. And so it's hard to identify it when you're living through it because it's not necessarily impacting you, right? Sure. Like, hey, you go vote, you got a job, you got a house, everything's great. It's like, I hear a story or two on the news or on social media about something bad that happened. We might be outraged for a second, but then we return back to our normal lives. And so what we're trying to disrupt is that thinking that everything is okay, because it's not. Black people are under attack in this state, and this governor continues to come after us, come after our history, come after, our ability to have money and discretionary income for our families. I just got my, this is kind of off the topic of the issues that we're talking about, but I just got my renewal for my homeowner's insurance, and it's going up again, right? And so that impacts the amount of money that I have to take care of my family and to do some fun things, right? I mean, and so we've been very blessed, and I'm fortunate and grateful for that. And I will never, not give God thanks for putting us in a position where we can do some things, but that's not the story for everybody, right? Some people literally live on the margins where they're going paycheck to paycheck. And even if it's a $50 increase, that $50 increase could disrupt everything. Mm-hmm. And so we have to be conscious of that when we continue to not participate and allow politicians and elected officials to wreak havoc on our community, and it goes unchecked. You know what I'm saying? It's just shame on us if we continue to allow that to happen. So again, thank y'all again for the platform. I really always enjoy my time on here with you all. I appreciate you all for showing up in the way that you do in the Panhandle. I know it's tough. I know it's not easy. Sometimes y'all are fighting, alone in essence, right? The numbers and the debt is sort of stacked against you, but you show up every day and you continue to organize and you continue to put in the work, and it's making a difference. It is certainly making a difference. We see it even just on our internal systems and things that we have, like with the platform I was telling people to go online and take action. We never used to get as much engagement from the Panhandle as we do now. So now whenever we put that call to action, we might see 20 to 30 people take the time to do something from the Panhandle, right? And so that matters, right? You gotta crawl before you can walk, and slow progress is better than no progress. And so, we just have to continue that upward move of progression for our people in this state. So thank you all for the work that you do.
Thank you. I'm glad to hear that. So you hear that in Northwest Florida. You got something. Let's keep the momentum going. So we appreciate that.
Absolutely.
I want to stick on the topic of stuff that's going on in the state of Florida before we switch to. Oh, sorry, Jill. You don't want to mute. Go ahead and say something.
I think I want to ask my question now because Genesis is on here. But Genesis, I need you to take off all your hats for a moment. So everybody take off all your hats because I had this conversation with one of our DBCF presidents, and she's in Tallahassee. And then I had this experience, and we talked about this last week. So at Thanksgiving, we were at a table, or the day after Thanksgiving, with young people that were 20 to 26 years old. And they were going over what was very important to them, life-shattering. And it was that they had a Snapchat streak. Do you know how long their streak was, Genesis? I want you to guess.
Guess 20 days.
Oh, no. Oh, no. That's how, you need to go much longer.
Okay.
Way longer.
A year.
No. Okay, so let me just tell you. Way longer. It was 5 years.
Yeah.
Wow.
Okay, 5 years. And then they then shared that when they one time broke the 5 years, they figured out that you could write a letter to Snapchat and let them know that they missed the notification that that their streak was going to break, and that Snapchat would reinstate it because it was that important to them.
Wow.
And at that moment, we realized that we are completely disconnected with those people that are 18 to, how old did you say you were? 34?
34,
So let's say 18 to 30, because we're not disconnected with you. So the conversation I then later had, because I had that conversation with this person, and she was saying these different things, and I was like, and I told her that, and she was like, what? She said, we're really, really disconnected. And then I told the story that we've told before, that many of the students that are in high school, that they're just now waking up to, we tell our kids all the time, we give them all this information, we tell them all this stuff that you have just shared, but they don't get it.
Yeah.
But they got it this year because DeSantis took away their cell phones. They can't have their cell phones in class anymore. And then they're coming home, and we shared the story, and moms are saying, my son said that, my daughter said that. They hate DeSantis now because they can't have their cell phones.
Right.
But we missed it. It's not because our insurance bills are going up or that you can't pay your rent or any. It's not that. It's because they can't have their cell phone bills. And then I want to reiterate that they went through a Snapchat. What'd you say it was again, Derek? Snapchat.
Their Snapchat streak.
And that when this 5-year streak was going to be broken and they missed it, they looked up a way to figure out how to contact Snapchat and write a formal letter so they could get it reinstated. And so my question is this: for 18, and I'd really probably say 26-year-olds, now everybody's hat is off. Don't give me the equal ground answer. Don't give me the Escambia Democratic answer. Bill, do not give me the I've been in this for 50, 60, 70, 80 years. I don't want that answer. What is it that our 18, they're asking, act like 18 to 26-year-olds are in front of us. What are they going to lose if they don't vote that matters to them?
Mm-hmm. Brother Snow, I'm going to let you start it off.
No, man, I defer
to matters to them. So that matters to them, because that's the catch. That matters to them. It's not what matters to us, what that matters to them.
Derek, you want to take it or you want me to go?
No, I'll give it to you.
All right, so this is what I'll say, right? I think it's interesting because to us, that sounds ridiculous, right? That sounds ridiculous that they would care about keeping up appearances for, I don't even know what a streak is. I really don't know.
A streak is literally just
how many times you communicate.
How many times you talk? You just got to talk to the person, wave to them, say hi.
Back and forth to the same person.
Back and forth just to say hi every single day to your friend. That's it.
Wow. Okay. So despite how ridiculous that may seem to us, I think it really reflects what politics truly is to some people, right? So like obviously Snapchat is not politics, but the point I'm making here is like some people can be single issue voters, and it can be one thing that they care about. They don't care about all that other stuff. They don't care about, policies that hurt their pocket. They don't care about whatever. They care about what bathroom a person may be able to go into, or they care about, any type of gun rights or issues. So I think we have to find those issues for the young people and connect it to their everyday life, right? I spoke to a group about a year and a half ago over in Orlando, and we started talking about, their views on politics and whatever the case may be. And going back to the whole insurance crisis thing, one of the kids gave an answer of why they don't like DeSantis, because their mom said that she don't have any more money because her rent went up. And they were just stuck on this about how miserable their summer had been because their mom didn't have the extra money to do the things that they wanted to do. And so I think like we have to find those instances and be able to tie it to politics. Because when we just like talk on this high level of like this policy and Senate bill such and such, or senator and represent, like people don't see all that. Like, let's break it all the way down to the most basic level, right? Like, okay, you're in the house, you're bored, or the basketball court up the street is broken down. You know what I'm saying? Like, find the things that people care about in their own personal, local life, try to engage them around that. And then maybe that'll increase a level of interest that would make them care about politics, right? Because I can't say that everybody thing is the same, right? Like I said, a lot of people, and that was a hard thing for me, right? Before working with Equal Ground, I've worked in the political space and I've helped people get elected. And that was a struggle for me for many years, recognizing the fact that like what the issues that may matter to me may not matter to the next person. And I think we discount that a lot of times when we talk in electoral politics. It's because you'll say, how can someone vote for a person like Trump? It's like, because you're looking at it from a morality standpoint. And that's a factor that you may include when you're determining who it is that you're voting for. All they care about is, free taxes or whatever the case may be. You know what I'm saying? Tax reform. And so I think, we have to find we have to find more of those snap shriek issues, if you will, for young people beyond snap, right? Like the ones that actually apply to their real everyday life, because there's something there, right? Like you said, they took the initiative to care about it. They took the initiative to be invested in it over a sustained period of time. And when things didn't go right, they took the initiative to find out a way to fix it. And so I think we have to tap into that and just find more of those type of issues and those type of concerns.
I am 61. Ain't no 70, 80 in it.
So, and when
I'm just kidding.
Old, but I can see you saying, well, my mom said, how our grandparents
Listen,
they want that answer.
Deal. It's okay. I'm proud of these 61 years, but I just want to state that there is a serious disconnect with me and young folk. I have absolutely no idea. I don't talk to any young folk. I'm not around any young folk. I've got a 17-year-old that'll be 18 next year that lives an hour and a half away. And she's a serious TikToker. But as far as the issues of the day, I have absolutely no idea.
Yeah. It's tough. It's tough because, I know, like with voter registration, you say like, oh, well, our ancestors, they fought. Like, man, those kids don't want like that. That does nothing for them. It does absolutely nothing. And so I think we just got to continue to have conversations with them, right? Like, kudos to you for even being at the table. I mean, I guess maybe been for Thanksgiving, so you didn't have a choice. But
it was the day after, but you bring games in, you just communicate. I like to listen. I used to think, Bill, to be honest, I thought I was till then, and that happened to be my daughter, by the way, and her best friend. But when they went through that, I was like, you actually looked up Snapchat's information, and
that's tough to find too.
That person, like her mom, because I would do that, but I surely wouldn't have looked up Snapchat's number.
It's tough.
Letter to them, but she gets it from me. But I just was like, you just went an extra level to write a letter so you could get reinstated. I mean, that was so extra. But after seeing that that's what they do, it just really was like a clear picture of the disconnect when we're saying, hey, there's from 18 to whatever the age is, that there is truly a different way that they look at things. And what I'm asking really is, how do we get to them? Because we're missing it.
Mm-hmm.
And we've got to figure it out. And we 11 months is all we have. And we don't have 11 months because I need them to vote in March and August and November. And I need them to register right now. So what is that? How is it that we get them? And it might not be our job, but who do we talk to? And you're the youngest person on here. So I was like, well, this is great. But I don't want the equal ground answer because they don't want the equal ground answer.
No, and
you know what I mean? That's why I'm asking.
Yeah,
pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, but like that's $1 million question, Jill. I mean, if we knew the answer to that, Joe Biden will be knocking at our door tomorrow, because he'll have another 4 years, right? So, like, it's tough, I mean, it's tough. But I think the main thing is just taking time to actually listen and really engage with young people, right? It's tough because I know it can be painful at times. They may say things that you don't agree with. But if you really take the opportunity to listen to them, hear the things that they care about, you can sometimes make a connection to how those things are impacted by politics, because they may not see that connection, right? Like even here locally. So I'm in Daytona Beach, Florida. Equal Ground is based in Orlando, but I have a home in Daytona Beach, and so I remember some years back there was a guy that I went to high school with. He was like all up in arms because the city had shut down a party. He was a promoter. And they shut down this party that he was doing. And, he was like calling the mayor and everybody else, every name there was on Facebook, right? And so I reached out and I had a conversation with him. And I was like, bro, there's a process. You just can't go up here to this silly city facility with no permit and set up, your speaker and, have a party and do all this. And I basically told him what that looked like, what that process was. And that was something that caught his attention in terms of his engagement around politics. And the next election, that was something that he cared about for those candidates. What is your stance on renting city facilities to promoters, right? Like that was something that he cared about now, right? And it may be trivial to me because I know that there's so many more other things that I need this candidate to care about. But for him, that was good enough to get him engaged and start being interested in the electoral process. And so I took that as a win, right? And so that was his entry to it. And so now, when the election comes, he votes, he'll reach out and he say, hey man, send me that thing that they have. And what he's talking about is the slate card that the party puts together. He's like, hey man, send me that thing. And so, I think we got to start small. And we can't take anything for granted, right? We just got to find those ways to make those connections.
And to think the sheer determination of those young folk that can get through to a Snapchat in a world of 7 billion, with at least one of those billion that could possibly be trying to reach them, they purposely make it tough for you to get through to them. So the sheer determination of those young folk that are, when it comes to something that they're really interested or concerned in or about.
Yep, you're absolutely right. If we could just, to your point, if we could just transfer that tenacity and fortitude to the world of civic engagement and voting and politics, we would be A-OK, you know. So,
absolutely. Sorry about that. My alarm was going off here at the house. Everything's okay.
All right.
Good.
I want to transition just briefly to in the state of Florida, there is a senator, and let me make sure I pull it up so I can get the name right. Senator Blaise Ingoglia. Yeah. He has introduced a bill, and for those of us, it's a Senate Joint Resolution, Senate 582, that will effectively, it's funny because it effectively bans something that we ain't getting anywhere right now, which are reparations within the state of Florida. Have you guys heard of that?
Yes, I have. So it was introduced last week. I will say this person is an ally of the governor, but he's known for introducing very contentious bills that tries to get people attention and start having these type of conversations that we're having right now. Last year, he introduced a bill that said if you are, I think it was like if you were like a member of like the Democratic Party, you would be kicked off of being registered as a Democrat because they were going to come after the party and then you would have to re-register. So this is the same person, right? Just to kind of give you context. So it's interesting because, again, they're trying to build around this narrative that Black people are getting handouts and, you know, we're somehow leeching off of the state in some way. Like Derek pointed out very wisely, there's no reparation payments currently being offered in the state of Florida. There's no meaningful legislation that seeks to do that here in the state of Florida. And so he's, you know, trying to fix a problem that doesn't exist. And that's much of who he is and what he stands for and sort of how he leads. And so I'm not surprised in any way, but just, you know, the ridiculousness of it, right? To try to score political points at the expense of somehow trying to start this conversation to get people to believe that there's no merit or no need for reparations. You know, just, you know, shame on him for doing that. But I did see where that was introduced last week.
Yeah, I guess, you know, to your point, he is the same guy that said that the Democratic Party should be eliminated from as a registered political party, right? Which would eliminate all of our stuff, you know, for those of us who are registered Democrats within the state of Florida. And that got essentially nowhere, right? Where we are right now, given the climate that we're in within the state of Florida, should we pay as much attention to this as we did to that? Or do you think this could be something that actually provides a little bit more fodder and can gain legs as it moves through?
Yeah, so to my knowledge, nothing has been introduced in the House. I mean, I'm sorry, in the Senate.
Right.
Yet. No, I'm sorry, in the House yet, because he is a senator. So nothing's been introduced in the House that I know of as of yet. So I don't think we have anything to be worried about. And just was the case with the other bill for the Democratic that he was coming after the party for. Nobody ever picked it up in the House as well on that. So it's going to be an uphill battle at any rate. And I want to say that it has to still go on the ballot. So yeah, you know, like even if they approved it, it still has to go before voters and it has to clear the 60% threshold in order to be enacted, which if they get their way, that 60% threshold will become 66% because they're already trying to do that as well. Right. So yeah, I don't think we have anything to be worried about. But again, I think it is an opportunity for us to signal to our people, right? Like, hey, these are the people that hold positions of power in our state. And if you disagree with them thinking like this and thinking as if Black folks don't deserve or are warranted reparations from hundreds of years of enslavement and, abuse and all type of, mistreatment, then get involved and make sure that people like him don't have a platform and an office to spew this type of foolishness. Like, and not only that, like, I just think it's also an opportunity to really meet people where they are, right? Like, just say you go to any household, right? It can be a complete household. It can be a single parent household. It can be anybody, but anybody who's just struggling to make it in Florida right now. And you say, hey, this is your elected representative. This is the bill that he's putting forward to help you in your life. Right? That would me personally, that would make me feel some type of way. Even if I wasn't a Black man. Yeah. Right? Like, you telling me that this is your solution to the problems that I'm facing? I don't have money, to pay my bills, and you're telling me this is the problem, that you're so concerned and focused about up there in Tallahassee. So it's just a joke. And I really think, and I really hope people wake up and see it for that. Regardless of how you feel on the issue of reparations, we got so much other stuff that has to be addressed and dealt with in this state. And for this to be an issue that you take up as one of your first priorities of business going into the 2024 session is just absolutely ridiculous.
I think that's a great way to
frame that.
Yeah, really frame that for everybody else.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That way it's not about Black, white, Democrat, Republican. It's just, this is what your person is spending their time on. They're not fighting for you. They're not listening to you. This is what they're doing, which has nothing to do with making your life better, your community better. Nothing.
That's right.
Jared says they're watching in Chicago, and he sends love to the panel and the viewers. Yeah. Mr. McIntosh.
Brother McIntosh.
Mr. McIntosh.
All right.
You appreciate you watching. Yeah, to your point.
Is it snowing up there? You need to ask him, is he in
snow? Is it still snowing up there, brother?
It's still snowing, right?
Last week he was in a whole lot of snow, so.
Nice.
Yeah. So to your point, this is like, with all of the things you alluded to it, homeowners insurance increases, or the lack of insurers that are, or the amount of insurers that are leaving the state in droves to what we're reduced to are just a couple and citizens, to the rising the issue that is affordable housing in the state of Florida. All of these things, you're prioritizing this as a political point of preference for your for the Senate and the state legislature to address in the 2023-2024 cycle is absolutely abhorrent, and it's embarrassing. I mean, it should be ashamed. He's also the guy if you're in a union, he introduces union busting into the state, and trying to make it difficult to take money out of your check. So it's just an ongoing cycle. Yes. To your point, there are many other things that you should be concerned on and tackling, but this is how you spend your time.
Yep. And Derek, I'll say in closing, because I'm actually going to have to run.
Yeah.
But, as it relates to this senator, right, we shouldn't be surprised, because these people told us earlier this year that they thought there was a benefit to slavery for enslaved persons. Mm-hmm. So if they think it's a benefit for us to be enslaved, why would they think we deserve anything? Right? If anything, I'm surprised he didn't put out a bill saying we should pay the state.
Right.
Based on their logic.
Right.
Don't give them any ideas.
Amen.
I mean, so yeah, exactly. I don't want to give them any ideas, but I mean, it's just how ridiculous it is. So there's no need for us to fall for the okie doke and waste all our time trying to mobilize around this necessarily. Not that I don't think that it's a worthy cause, because it is. We got to make sure that whenever evil rears its head, you got to smash it right back down. Right. But the reality of it is, this isn't going anywhere. And even if it did go anywhere, we still got a whole nother conversation to have about it passing with the voters, and then a whole nother conversation about what a reparation is going to look like to begin with. right? So I think he's just doing it to try to, gain some more traction. This is his bill that he does every year to make a name for himself and get his impressions up. But it's not going anywhere, and we shouldn't be surprised whatsoever.
Yeah. Well, we certainly thank you for joining us today. Thank you for taking time out of your schedule. We look forward to seeing you on Tuesday. Again, for those who joined, please make sure you join Eagle Ground at Take the Lead political training series on Tuesday at 5:30 our time, Central Time, if you're watching us in the Central Time Zone, 6:30 Eastern, and or in addition to on Wednesday in Tallahassee as we protest the injustice that is the removal of State's Attorney Maurice Orwell. So with that, thank you, Genesis. We appreciate your time. Tell your family hello, and thank you for allowing us to steal you away for this time. We appreciate it. We'll see you soon.
Oh, no. All right, family. Good being with y'all. Y'all have a good evening, and have a great rest of the show.
You as well. Thank you.
All right. I'll be good. Bye-bye.
Bye. So now as we move on, I saw some comments in the Facebook chat, and we're right there with you, Diane, and those who are asking about the BLM conversation. We'll get there. We'll make sure we have it on the topic. But I want to move on to as we transition to that point. I'm interested. Did anybody see the red state, blue state debate with California Governor Gavin Newsom and the Florida governor that is Ron DeSantis this past week?
I've got the highlights. I was out.
So with that, what I will say is, it was. I will sum it up. It was a bloodbath. I'm going to give
annihilation
to an annihilation. I don't know what Ron DeSantis thought he was doing or what he thought he was going to accomplish in this debate, but he surely should have left there thinking like, "Wow."
He jumped in the
ill-prepared and ill-equipped.
Yeah, he jumped in the cage with a bear.
Right. Right. And for those of you all who didn't hear it, I think the biggest summation that I could take away is Governor Newsom's summation, where he was highlighting the differences between DeSantis and himself. And he said, but he ended the statement, he said, but we do have one thing in common.
Yeah, we will not.
One thing in common is that neither one of us be our party's nominee for the president of the United States in 2024. To me, they could have ended the debate there. Like, it was like, okay, let's just shut this down. We're good. Because it was sad. He tried to come at him on, he being DeSantis tried to come at Newsom on issues around border protection and things of that nature, which is funny that you're talking to the governor of a state that borders Mexico and trying to tell him how things should run as a border state when you yourself are not a border state. And, he says, Governor Newsom said, you're trying to spend your time trying to out-Trump Trump.
Right.
Which is funny in and of itself. So, I think if you have not seen it, it is worth the time to go back and watch it. We didn't see anything that we didn't already know, except Ron DeSantis is pitiful, absolutely abhorrent. And it certainly, if this didn't highlight to both Democrats and Republicans, I don't know what else will, that he is not prepared and will not be the nominee for the Republican nominee for the president of the United States, even though, I think it's evident as he's 40 points plus behind in their polling on the Republican side. So, I think it's time to wrap it up, let it go. And even to the point that he spent his time on his presidential campaign cycle to debate someone who is not running for president should kind of speak volumes around priorities. But his priorities and how he does those mirrors how he treats the state of Florida.
Well,
if there should be a priority or not.
It's like a prize fighter that isn't that good. He picks opponents that he thinks he can beat. So that's what happened. He picked an opponent who he thought he could beat. But the more you look at that guy, his confidence is fading. He looks like a scared little schoolboy. He's just, Nikki is gaining on him. His Trump guy is all over that. DeSantis is a joke. And for whatever reason, the party that got together and the people that figured out that he should be running, the party, the group that they get together to determine if you should run, because of the craziness with the laws that he passed here in Florida, gave him the big head to think that the nation was ready for him. When in essence, DeSantis. We thought before all of this got started that he was so much smarter than Trump, when in essence, he is a little Trump, but he's showing that he's really not that studied when it comes to the politics of it. Now, they take border issues and those hot button issues that they know that base loves to hear, and he's a beast there. But when it comes to the big picture, the whole picture, he's not presidential. He's not even governor material, to be frank with you. But he was chewed up and spat out the other night. I mean, Gavin looked presidential. He's a very smart guy, and we got DeSantis, like you already said, Derek, trying to tell him issues of the day as far as California is concerned. And the lie that DeSantis said that more folk had moved to Florida than from Florida to California, it was all wrong. Newsom was definitely correct. More people have moved from Florida to California. So he think he studied for that, but he wasn't ready for a professional politician. He just wasn't ready.
And even so, he got up, Governor Newsom called out books. He talked about the book banning tour that DeSantis is going on around the state of Florida. He called out books and authors that had been banned. And DeSantis was like, oh, that's a false narrative. That's a lie. And I'm like, we live in Escambia County. All those books that he's talking about have been banned or restricted heavily. What are you talking about? It's a false narrative. It's not a false narrative. You can't go on television and blatantly lie, like he did, and think that there are not people who are going to call you out on the stuff and fact check. Like, it's crazy. I'm like, no, that is banned. Yep, no, that's banned too. What is he talking about? And I didn't realize that he said Governor Newsom, and I have to validate, because we get so focused on, I get focused on all things that is Escambia County and the number of books that we have banned. I didn't realize that there were so many. He quoted, Governor Newsom quoted a number of 1,406 books have been banned across the state of Florida. That's a ton of books. Like when you look at it, I just focus on, the 300, and I'm thinking, oh, that's a lot here in Escambia County, but no, 1,400 is a lot. Like, I don't know.
So here's what I think. I think that DeSantis is doing what he's doing because DeSantis just does what he does. He knows he's not going to be, maybe he doesn't know. The rest of us know he's not going to be president. He's not going to be the nominee, but he has to keep up his game because he's not ever going to back away. So if you're waiting for him to drop out, it's not going to happen.
Well, he's vying for vice president now.
Right. He's now it's vice president. And if it's not vice president, it'll be for him to come back and be governor. He's going to keep going until he's just the governor because he knows he can always come back to that. So he's got to be out there. He's got to pick, like Bill said. I thought that was a great way to put it, that he's fighting, opponents he thinks he can beat. I think that, I don't know. I think that to say that you can't just lie, they can, because Trump does. Like, there's no longer that you can't just lie. that narrative doesn't work anymore because he does it every day of his life. So everybody's trying to do it. The difference is Trump gets away with it, sort of, kind of. But then you have to look at the fact that why is it that when he lies, they don't really believe it? They twist it. So I believe that the Republican Party, it's not that they like him. They don't like him. They just have decided that, and I guess we'll get into Cheney's book, but if you read the book or you look at the synopsis of her book, it goes into exactly why they are doing what they're doing with Trump. Because they actually believe that the world is coming to an end. And so they just got to kind of say, yeah, Trump did all that stuff, but we're just going to go with it. They don't like him. It's kind of like here, can we say this? But it's the truth. Most of the people, well, a lot of the people in Northwest Florida don't like Gates. But for whatever reason, NPAs and Republicans, you guys vote for him. We don't understand it. This is you telling us that. Y'all will say, we don't even like him. We just vote for him. We don't understand it. But you do it. It's the same thing with him. Now, I don't know, Bill, you're right. With Nikki Haley, she's really picking up momentum. She's really picking up momentum. I don't know, because I'm not a Republican, I don't know if they'll be able to say Trump, Nikki Haley.
No. Well, both she and DeSantis are both vying for that vice presidential under Trump. I mean, she. I don't think she thinks that she has a shot at the nominee, and I surely does hope he picks her as his vice, because I stand by that. Conservative right are not going to elect a woman president vice either.
What?
They're upset about Kamala. But
so just let's stop.
The conservative right.
Okay, but their option then would be Biden and Kamala or Trump and Nikki. And you think that they're going to pick Biden and Kamala over Trump and Nikki?
No, the conservative right are not going to. Of course they're not going to.
They got to vote. So who are they going to vote
for? They might not vote at all.
Bill.
No, I'll see that.
Bill. Bill, you got to do better than that.
She's giving you the side.
We have Biden and Kamala. That's a golden ticket. Now on the other side, if there's Trump and Nikki, and what are you telling me that they're going to do?
Look, we did Biden and Kamala. We did that. And there's more of us that are neutral when it comes to a woman can run the country. We believe that. But the Republic, they don't believe it, man.
But if God forbid, Lord have mercy, Jesus, if Trump is their nominee and he picks Nikki, what do you think that they're going to do? Who are they voting for then?
I don't know. They might stay home.
But no, I'm just saying, if they can vote for Trump, then who cares who the next person is? You really mean to think? I mean, I just want to understand this. Just
they are that backwards now.
Bill, what you're saying is that they're going to put Trump at the top of the ticket and they're going to worry about who's under him? They're going to get a conscience all of a sudden and worry about who's underneath him and stay home. They're going to put him at the top of the ticket and they're going to worry about...
I'm saying enough will stay home that we can get Biden and Kamala in. That's what I'm saying. Enough will not vote for him.
He's burning tonight. So your strategy is that we should have Trump on the ticket over here with Nikki, and enough of them are going to stay home so Biden and Kamala can win?
We defeated Trump in the last election. So I don't think it much matters who is at the vice level. But I think that our chances are better with Kamala and Biden and their record as opposed to Trump and Nikki. Y'all got to understand that Trump really doesn't have the momentum that this right-wing media it keeps telling y'all he has, but you guys have bought into it. So how do you think that the people viewing us are supposed to think? Trump he doesn't have the momentum that they're telling you that he has. I'm telling you now.
Okay, so I want to read something to you.
It was just something from the right-wing media.
Oh, this is for you. Hold on. I want to read
it. Please read. We're going to...
Please read it. Please read it.
I want to read this to you because it's important though. This is from Cheney's book because
Liz
Cheney, yeah.
Yeah.
She wrote this book. And I'm gonna start with her. Hold on. Okay. We have also now learned that most Republicans currently in Congress will do what Donald Trump asks, no matter what it is. I'm very sad to say that America can no longer count on a body of elected Republicans to protect our republic. Oath and honor ends with a call to action that Cheney asserts is more important than partisan politics. Every one of us, Republicans, Democrats, independents, must work and vote together to ensure that Donald Trump and those who have appeased, enabled, and collaborated with him are defeated. That is the cause of our time. She was in it. She's telling you that her colleagues have appeased, enabled, and collaborated. Bill, they have appeased, enabled, and collaborated. She's called them out. She's telling you, don't let it happen. She's telling Republicans, independents, Democrats, wake up. Don't allow this to happen. Don't be fooled by the media. Don't be fooled by what you think is not true. Don't be fooled by what is true. Wake up. So I'm telling you, I don't care what the media says. You can believe it, don't believe it. He has a power within that they are appeased, they are collaborating, and she's exposed it. It's exposed now. It's true that their side, I'm not talking about Democrats, I'm talking about the other side, is allowing it to happen. So we don't have to worry about what the polls say. We don't have to worry about it because the people in office and the people that are following, that's what they're doing. So it's not about what I believe. It's about what's actually happening. And if you watch, there are people, hold on, there's one other part. She says, Trump has told us that he thinks the Constitution can and should be suspended when necessary, and that what happened on January 6th was justified, that in his second Trump presidency, he would seek retribution. The assumption that our institution will protect themselves is purely wishful thinking by people who prefer to look the other way.
Kenny Ade says they'll support Trump and Nikki and use Nikki to show how they support minorities. It will urge minorities aiming for whiteness to vote. Jerry, Mr. McIntosh also says yes, they will.
Yeah, I think their love for Trump will outweigh any disdain for having a woman elected to the office of the vice president. So, because, I think that would be a legitimate argument if you could vote for them separate, right? But, you can't. You vote for the two together. So their desire to want Trump in office is going to supersede any issue or hindrance that they have about having a woman vice president or Nikki Haley.
I agree with Jill.
Stop right there. Just stop right there. Write that down.
And Jerry. I agree with you guys. My only point is this, that there are more of genuine people of goodwill. Trump has lost some of that base, guys. I'm telling you, Trump has lost. Liz Cheney and the insiders that are going to go with Trump, I mean, they fought like the devil to keep George Santos. I get it. I promise you, I do. But I just think that there are more of us and more people, genuine people of goodwill that has defected. But the right-wing media doesn't want you want you in on that narrative. Mitt Romney has openly said, look, if that clown is the nominee, man, you don't want to talk about that, Jillian. If that clown is the nominee, I will vote for Biden, Kamala. It's a lot of people feel that way, guys. I'm telling you now.
Well, let's hope that's the case. I'm I'm not quite yet seeing it, but just as I think their disdain for Vice President Harris, which on this panel we love, seems to outweigh. It even shines when the man, we know her name. Her name is Kamala, but that man got up on somebody's national TV and said and mispronounced her name. And Governor Newsom had to check him. Like, wait a minute, hold up. That's what we're not going to do on this good television, screen, and go up there and try to disrespect her as vice president. I don't know. Go ahead.
That disdain was there when she won.
Yeah,
they won the first time. So I mean, come on, man. I'm telling you. Okay, all right. Tina comes back and said, "Well, never mind. She that was the same statement."
Yep. I hear you. I don't.
But then you have to also remember that he also had the young people. He can't do this without the young people.
I agree.
Do you think he has the young people?
So he doesn't have them right now.
Mm-hmm.
We don't even have them right
now. Neither party has them.
5 years on some whatever that we don't even understand.
Neither party has the young folk.
Right.
Neither party has them. And one party has to win them. And I think that the left has the better shot at winning them. I really do. Because the right preaches and teaches divisiveness, whereas our party is a party of inclusion. So I think once we find out exactly what it is that interests our young folk, we've got a much better shot of winning than the right does.
I think in theory you're correct, but only in theory. And I say that because in theory that's true. That's what we stand for, and that sounds great. But that's only if that's where they are. But if they really care about, I don't know, whatever it is, and it's not on inclusiveness or how they're brought up or whatever, if it has to be, I mean, I don't know if I made up something and that is down the line, then they don't care one way or the other. Does that make sense?
It does. It does.
So it really depends and who meets them where they're at. And
I agree.
Who has the ability to meet them where they're at. And so here would be my problem. I'm gonna take off all my hats. Here would be my problem. I have to take off all my hats because this is what I see if I took off all my hats. When it's time to vote, just vote in general, Republicans do this. They ring a bell and they all go. So if they're watching that, there might be a Republican, because when the Democrats, we don't ring a bell. We don't have that sense of urgency. So if they're watching, let's say, said parents, grandparents, aunts, uncles, cousins, brothers, whoever, pastors, whoever, and they don't see you go, or they see you complain or argue or whatever, you know what I mean? I'm painting a picture. I took off all my hats so nobody can get mad at me right now. But I see, and I had this conversation, it's election day. It's raining. Do we go? It might be raining. We might not go. It's too cold. The lines are too long. With this, I mean, we can come up with a million excuses of why not to go. Republicans don't seem to have that. It's almost like we go, we do our early voting, we do all our stuff, and they wait till freaking voting day, and they all just go, no matter what. So and that's why I said in theory it works, but if they're like, hey, who's the people that always go? I mean, somebody said to me, and I'm not saying this. This was said to me. I am not saying this. All my hats are off. This is not me saying this. But somebody said Democrats fight and Republicans win. In theory, if they hear that, what do they want to be? They don't want to be a fighter. They want to be a winner. If they hear that. So in theory, it's all about who they hear it from, what they hear, and where you're meeting them at. So we can't just go by theory. It literally has to be somebody understanding and educating them where they're at. This is a whole different group of people. I mean, you almost like men are from Mars, women are from Venus. It's that different. That is and I'm going again, all my hats are off. Men, you guys, you'll go on a date and you think everything's great and we're just friends, and we went on a date and we think you want to marry us. Completely different. That's how different it is. That's the truth. He's going to call me. He really liked me. And you're like, yeah, we're just friends. You can't, and your best friend's going, she thinks you like her. And you're like, no, I don't. We're just friends. And we're giving you all the reasons why, because you don't understand. It's that different. But we don't have the book to tell us, hey, how to figure this out, because it's so new. And we don't have anybody on the inside to break it down because it's so new. And we have struck a chord.
Yeah, Lord. Here come your help. Here come your help. Pull her in, Derek.
Yes.
Who is it? I don't see who
Christina's coming. Christina's
okay. Here come your help.
Yeah, so I don't know.
I've done it now.
I'm just saying there's got to be something. And like I said, Bill, I'm not disagreeing with you. In theory, I think that's absolutely right. I just think there's a friend of mine that works with youth in Orlando, and he was like, but they're going to put a curfew on them. And I'm like, they wouldn't care. They would go out till 10 o'clock, and 11 to 1, they're going to get on TikTok and Snapchat. That's not going to bother them. You're thinking like we would think, oh, you're making us come home. And they're thinking, we'll just change our schedule around.
Go ahead, Christina.
Go ahead, Christina.
Oh no, I'm just here and glad to be here, and this has just been an incredible show. And
go ahead, beat me up.
I actually didn't hear the last part of what was said, so I apologize for jumping in the middle of the conversation.
Okay.
Well, certainly, we were chiming in. We got on the topic of who the nominees are. Essentially, that's where we were. Brother Bill said that. Well, no, let me not requote him because I'll quote what I heard instead of what he actually said. So, it was just a conversation of whether or not people were going to vote for a Republican ticket that included Trump and Nikki Haley as president and vice president combination.
There you go. Tell him, Christina. Tell him.
Let me rephrase.
No,
Clarify. Let me clarify. Because you're saying no. I just want to make sure you're saying no.
Well, let her answer. You said enough.
No, let me be clear. Whether Republicans will vote for a ticket that includes Trump and Haley.
When Trump is the nominee and Trump chooses Nikki.
When Trump is the nominee and Trump chooses Nikki Haley, will they vote or will
they stay home?
Brother Bill said they're not going to vote for that. Are you still saying no, they won't?
So, Brother Bill, as far as Republicans go, again, definitely not a Republican, so can't really speak to what's going on in that community. My best estimated guess is if Trump is on the ticket, Republicans are going to vote for Trump. If Nikki Haley is on that ticket as well, that's going to pull in more moderate Republicans that would have stayed away from any Trump ticket.
Don't pull back now, Bill.
So that would be my guess, looking at how just things are changing and going forward. Nikki Haley's going to pull moderates. Trump has a cult base that will never leave his side. And Trump has a funding base. That's the biggest thing there.
I would agree with you on her pulling those moderates were the polling numbers better. But she and DeSantis is running neck and neck, way 40 points behind. If she was 15 points closer to Trump, I might buy into her pulling those moderates, but she's just too far down. I don't think.
So we're talking about who's the ticket, right?
Yeah.
So If it's Trump and DeSantis, that's one ticket, or if it's Trump and Nikki Haley, that's another ticket. So if it's Trump and Nikki Haley, DeSantis is out of the question. So it's when we're talking about Republicans, it's talking about, are they going to go with that ticket? And I don't see them going. If it's Trump and, let's say, for example, God forbid, it was Trump and Matt Gaetz. I see moderates going towards Joe Biden. If it's Trump and Nikki Haley, I see Nikki Haley being able to bring in more moderates. Trump and DeSantis is kind of the same thing. DeSantis, I think, actually scares a lot of moderate Republicans in other states.
I agree with that.
So, yeah, but if that's the ticket and you're talking to Republicans, they're not talking Biden. So, you know,
and they're not staying home because you rang the bell. Remember, they're not us. They don't, when I say us, they're not any other party. Let me just put it that way, not an us. They're not any other party. They are born with a DNA that says when the bell rings, you go vote. No matter what, up and down the ticket, you just go vote. I don't know how they do it. I don't understand it. I just wish the rest of us could understand it and could do it. But they do it. So, Bill, I'm telling you that they're going to go vote. They're not going to stay home.
I believe they will, Jill. I promise. I do believe they will.
Yeah.
I just don't believe that there's enough of them to dethrone the Biden-Harris ticket. That's all I'm saying. I believe look, you got the what they call them, yellow dog Republicans that are going to vote Republican up and down the ticket regardless. Those people vote. I think the decisive factor is the young folk. The young folk are the deciding factors, not the moderates, but the young folk, y'all. That's going to be and whoever reaches them stands the best chance. And I do believe that we are the party that are better fit to reach the young folk. That's going to determine it.
And I believe in theory that you're right. We are the better party, but we're not the better party if we don't reach them. And we're not the better party if we don't reach them where they're at, not in our theory, but where they are. And if they reach them first and they get them to go and don't help them with our excuses, then theory doesn't matter. Action
matters. Not necessarily a party of excuses.
Matters.
We're not necessarily a party of excuses. We actually vote. We don't run. Trump put in Republicans' minds and thoughts that the early voting and the mail-in ballots it's not right. So the Republicans are the ones that wait to the last minute to get out and vote, and they don't believe in it. But I believe that the Democrats and how we do and how we vote, we're not a party of excuse makers. You got people on both sides that are registered that don't necessarily turn out to vote.
Okay.
Not just the Democrats.
I'm taking off all my hats so you guys don't have to. All my hats are still off. Bill.
So
40% of us voted last time. 40%. That's why we lost. 40%.
Well, 40% of Republicans didn't either.
No, that's not true.
No, that's not true.
Okay, 38.
No, that's still
that's why we have the super majority. No.
Yeah, they were an upwards almost close to the 70%.
No way.
Yeah, they were closer to 70%.
This time, because that's why Miami-Dade went red. That's why Hillsborough went red. That's why Duval went red.
So you guys are talking Florida, okay?
Yeah, I'm talking about just Florida. We're talking because that's where we live.
All right, now it's making sense.
Yes, where we live.
I got you.
So
So I would even say that that would be true nationally to a point, in that. I don't think this is going to be, just like when Hillary won the popular vote, but still lost the election. It's not so much a matter of how many people are behind you, but where are those people? When we're talking about Florida, and, Jill makes a great point about ringing that bell and they go, I want you to look at the counties. Look at Escambia, look at Santa Rosa, look at Okaloosa, look at how many, and we're going back to just Florida, how many polling places are in churches? And are those churches Black churches? No. And they're not in high schools. The majority of them aren't in community centers. I'm not saying all of them, but a whole lot of them are in predominantly white churches up and down the state of Florida. When you look at voter registration forms and you go and you're like, okay, where are voter registration forms? You know, I was super excited to see Walmart on there, and I went to Walmart and I went to go look to see where the voter registration form. It's not by the check cashing place. It's over where you buy guns. So, and that's the way it is across the state of Florida. So yes, if you're going to your place of worship and your pastor tells you to show up and vote, and it makes it that easy, and it's that way across the state, you're talking to a certain specific audience every single time.
Wow, we're pretty amazing to get out and still do what we do against all of those odds. That makes so much sense. Tenny Ade on our live Facebook stream says Republican women will see themselves in a woman Republican VP. More so, it'll empower the Karens. She says Republicans don't really believe in diversity, whereas Democrats want every opinion to be heard and included. But it's not about celebrating diversity in 2024. It's about finding common ground. Tenny Ade, Councilwoman.
Yeah. Thank you. So, you know, we have 4 minutes left, and the night has gone by quickly. We started, and I don't want to miss Ms. Rose Shelby Williams' point. We'll cover it more in depthly next week if we get the opportunity. But she asked us to talk about the co-founder of Black Lives Matter, as has been reported, gave Trump his endorsement. And we want to, before we end the show, let's clarify and let's set the record straight that was not the co-founder of Black Lives Matter that we know of. It is, I think, a spinoff of Black Lives Matter, but Black Lives Matter, Inc. of Rhode Island. And the man's name is Mark Fisher.
Thank you. Thank you. That's why I wanted her to clarify that name.
Who gave the endorsement. So I don't want anybody in our viewing audience to walk away thinking that Black Lives Matter has endorsed Donald Trump. Anybody associated with Black Lives Matter has endorsed Donald Trump, because it is absolutely 100% untrue, not true, lie, falsehood, false narrative, fake news, whatever you want to say. It is that. There's no one in the Black Lives Matter organization that is akin to the Black Lives Matter organization that stands with, for, or endorses or uplifts the word of Donald J. Trump or his candidates. So we'll talk more about it. But even he went, I would recommend go on, everybody watch the Roland Martin show, or his show. He went on Roland Martin. And again, this is when people who are ill prepared to talk to people who know what they're talking about go on these shows and say stuff, because they make themselves look foolish. And everything that Mark Fisher said was Roland had a nope, you're lying, nope. And he's tried to, when people try to overtalk you, that's when they know they don't know what you're talking. That's when you know they don't know what they're talking.
Rose Shelby Williams also said, why not give a forum and focus on young folk locally to find out their thoughts? And Jerry signed on with that as well.
Yeah.
That would be an awesome show.
Yeah.
We could get Jill and Christina's children as part of that forum.
There you go. We have, they're all looking like, you don't know, but we'll see.
No. Huh? That would be a nice forum. That would not be a nice show there.
Yeah. So we started the show. I just want to end it because, I don't want to be accused of saying that I was biased towards the University of Florida. Michael Alford, the Vice President of Athletics and Athletics Director for Florida State University, released a statement, and I'll just take a second to read it if I can. It says, the consequences of giving into a narrative of the moment are destructive, far-reaching, and permanent, not just for Florida State, but for college football as a whole. The argument of whether a team is the most deserving or best is a false equivalence. It renders the season up to yesterday's irrelevant and significantly damages the legitimacy of the college football playoff. The 2023 Florida State Seminoles are the epitome of a total team. To eliminate them from a chance to compete from the national championship is an unwarranted injustice that shows complete disregard and disrespect for their performance and accomplishments. It is unforgivable. The fact that this team has continued to close out victories in dominant fashion facing our current quarterback situation should have enhanced our case to get a playoff both earned on the field. Instead, the committee decided to elevate themselves and make history today by departing from what makes the sport great by excluding an undefeated Power 5 conference champion for the first time since the advent of the BCS/CFP era that began 25 years ago. This ridiculous decision is a departure from the competitive expectations that have stood the test of time in college football. Wins matter, losses matter. Those that compete in the arena know this. Those on the committee who also competed in the sport and should have known this have forgotten it. Today, they have changed the way success is assessed in college football from a tangible metric, winning on the field, to an intangible, subjective one. Evidently, predicting the futures matters more. Our players, coaches, and fans, as well as all those who love this sport, deserve better. The committee failed college football today. And again, that's from the athletic director for Florida State University.
Great statement. Great statement.
We thank you for joining us today. We welcomed you for spending the last 2 hours of your life with us. And we look forward to seeing you again next week. Thanks, everybody, and have a great evening.
Great show, everybody. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.